next too.
Okay, welcome, everyone. Roll call, Daru?
Trustee Sparks?
Here.
Trustee Williams?
Here.
Trustee Barty?
Here.
Trustee Gomez?
Present.
What?
Okay, we'll do that after, right? After the closed session.
We can do it after the
Okay.
closed session.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, because then we'll have more people.
Right, we
Okay.
should adopt the agenda.
Yep.
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda for
Second.
today's.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes. 4-0.
We have no minutes. Any public comments?
Did we receive any more? No, not for closed session? None for closed session.
Okay, then we will be back in an hour. We are back. Welcome, all those who have joined us since 4 o'clock, and we'll get started right away.
Yeah, Lori's.
Okay, we're going to ask Lori Kaler to please come up to do the invocation.
And we can stand if we want. Yeah.
And if you want, you may stand. It's up to you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to read from what Paul prayed over the Corinthians. He said, "Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that ye all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment." Dear Heavenly Father, we are all here for the children. We pray that we would be of the same mind and the same judgment for their best interest. And we know that the people that love children the most are their parents. So we do want to keep the parents of the children in mind and what it is that the parents are seeking for the best interest of their children. We thank you for every trustee that's on this board and for the superintendent, for all the staff, for the attorneys, for all of the people that work hard here for the kids in this Orange County area. We pray for every single district. We pray for the redistricting decisions. We pray for all the decisions that will be made tonight that will all be for the children. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Lori. Next, we're going to have Dr. Lisa Sparks do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you both for that.
I want to give a thank you to our security
Sure.
acknowledgement. We'd like to acknowledge our security provided by the Orange County Sheriff's Department. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Public comments.
Yes, okay, so we
You
have
have a
all.
report out from closed session?
Oh, yes, we do. Mr. Greg Rowland, our special
have-
board counsel.
Do we have any general public comments? Okay,
Just
so
what you have.
these are all for item number 4, and we'll do the public comments when we get to that item.
Yes, on closed session number 1, the board received information on a matter of potential litigation and directed the reading out and approval of a resolution. The board's vote was 3-0-1. Trustees Barkey, Williams, and Sparks voting in favor. Trustee Gomez abstaining. So at this time, I'll read the resolution that the board approved into the record, and we will post it on the board's website. Please get comfortable, it's quite lengthy. Whereas Article 1, Section 2 of the United States Constitution mandates that an apportionment of representatives among the states be carried out every 10 years. And whereas the United States Census Bureau collected data required by Article 1, Section 2, the final census population data was validated by the Demographic Research Unit of the United States Department of Finance. And on September 16, 2001, the United States Census Bureau released the 2020 census redistricting data, Public Law 94-171 summary file, to all states, representing a significant delay in the ability of the government entities to meet their mandate. And whereas subsequent thereto, the state of California adjusted redistricting data, the redistricting data file, I should say, to reflect the reallocation of data from certain incarcerated persons to their last residential address, and this data had to be returned for another review and was eventually released back to the governing entities. And whereas, as it had historically done, in 2001 and 2011, the Orange County Board of Education proceeded to exercise its authority under Education Code Sections 35160 and 35161 to create a trustee area redistricting plan. And whereas at the May 5, 2021 regular board meeting, the board agenda included board discussions, 2021 census presentation. And whereas at the July 2, 2021 regular board meeting. The board publicly approved a redistricting contract for National Demographics Corporation. And whereas National Demographics Corporation has successfully performed redistricting plans in several states and has received state and national recognition for its demographic expertise. And whereas at the June 16 regular board meeting, the Orange County Board of Education, the board publicly appointed Trustee Williams and Trustee Shaw to the redistricting committee. And whereas at the August 4, 2021 regular meeting of the Orange County Board of Education, Dr. Douglas Johnson of National Demographics Corporation made a public presentation on redistricting. And at the October 6, 2021 regular board meeting, the board received a public update on the board redistricting process. And whereas at the November 3, 2021 regular board meeting, the board received a public presentation by Dr. Douglas Johnson of National Demographics Corporation on the redistricting process and created 3 proposed maps with relevant demographic data. And whereas at the October 3, 2021 regular board meeting, the board conducted its first public hearing on the redistricting plan. The board received public comment on the redistricting plan not only during the public comment portion of the board agenda, but also during the public hearing and via electronic mail. And whereas at the November 3, 2021 board meeting, Dr. Douglas Johnson presented 3 proposed maps for the board and public consideration. And whereas at the November 3, 2021 public hearing on the board redistricting plan, the board welcomed additional maps to be presented by the board and public no later than November 12, 2021. And whereas on or about November 3, the 3 presented maps were posted on the board redistricting 2021 website. And whereas on or before November 12, 2021, the board received 7 additional maps for board consideration. And whereas the 10 proposed maps were posted on the board redistricting 2021 website on or about November 22, 2021. And whereas at the November 1 regular board meeting, the board conducted its second public hearing on the redistricting plan. The board received public comment on the redistricting plan during the public hearing, and via electronic mail. And whereas at the November 1, 2021 regular board meeting, the board considered each proposed map separately. The board summarily commented on each proposed redistricting map as follows. Map number 1. By consensus, the board disapproved of map number 1 for reasons including, but not limited to, number 1, it appeared non-responsive to public comment requesting Cypress reside in trustee area number 2. And map number 2, by consensus, the board disapproved of map number 2 for reasons including, but not limited to, number 1, it appeared non-responsive to public comment requesting Cypress reside in trustee area number 2. Map number 3, by consensus, the board disapproved of map number 3 for reasons including, but not limited to, number 1, it appeared non-responsive to public comment requesting Cypress reside in trustee area number 2. Map number 4, by consensus, the board agreed to consider map number 4 at the December 8 public hearing for reasons including, but not limited to, number 1, map number 4 appeared responsive to public comment requesting Cypress reside in trustee area number 2. Number 2, map number 4 maintained a 52% Latino voting age population in trustee area number 1. Number 3, map number 4 maintained a 33% Asian voting age population in trustee area number 2. And number 4, map number 4 had a mere 3.37% deviation, that's 2,349 people, between the largest and smallest trustee area. And map number 5, by consensus, the board agreed to consider map number 5 at the December 8, 2021 public hearing for reasons including, but not limited to, number 1, map number 5 appeared responsive to public comment requesting Cypress reside in trustee area number 2. Number 2, map number 5 maintained a 51% Latino voting age population in trustee area number 1. Number 3, Map number 5 maintained a 34% Asian voting age population in trustee area number 2. And number 4, map number 5 has a 0% deviation, one person, between the largest and smallest trustee area. And map number 6, by consensus, the board disapproved of map number 6 for reasons including but not limited to number 1. Map number 6 was created for the Orange County Board of Supervisors, which has a different statutory purpose and mission than the board. Number 2, map number 6 was not presented with sufficient demographic data for either National Demographics Corporation or the board to consider whether it was compliant with the Voting Rights Act, maintained communities of interest, and or made trustee areas as nearly equal in population as they may be. And number 3, map number 6 was rejected by the Orange County Board of Supervisors. And map number 7, by consensus, the board disapproved of map number 7 for reasons including but not limited to number 1, map number 7 was created by the Orange County Board of Supervisors, which has a different statutory purpose and mission than the board. Number 2, map number 7 was not presented with sufficient demographic data for either National Demographics Corporation or the board to determine whether it was compliant with the Voting Rights Act, maintained communities of interest, and or made trustee areas as nearly equal in population as they may be. And number 3, map number 7 was rejected by the Orange County Board of Supervisors. Map number 8, by consensus, the board disapproved of map number 8 for reasons including but not limited to number 1, map number 8 was created for the Orange County Board of Supervisors, which had a different statutory purpose and mission than the board. Number 2, map number 8 was not presented with sufficient demographic data for either National Demographics Corporation or the board to consider whether it was compliant with the Voting Rights Act, maintained communities of interest, and or made trustee areas as nearly equal in population as they may be. And number 3, map number 8 was rejected by the Orange County Board of Supervisors. And map number 9, by consensus, the board disapproved of map number 9 for reasons including but not limited to number 1, map number 9 appeared non-responsive to public comment requesting Cypress reside in trustee area number 2. Number 2, map number 9 had the lowest Asian voting age population in trustee area number 2 at 25%. Number 3, map number 9 had a 2.18% deviation, 13,940 people, between the largest and smallest trustee area. Number 4, trustee map number 9 restricted 2 existing incumbent board members in the same trustee area, redistricted, I should say, 2 trustee areas, existing board members within the same trustee area. And number 5, map number 5 was submitted with extraneous partisan registration data. And number 6, map number 9 was not presented with sufficient demographic data for either National Demographics Corporation or the board to consider whether it was compliant with the Voting Rights Act. Map number 10, by consensus, the board disapproved of map number 10 for reasons including but not limited to number 1, map number 10 has a 9.22% deviation, 58,864 people between the largest and smallest trustee areas. Number 2, several trustee districts were renumbered. Number 3, map number 10 alters many current trustee areas and thereby does not respect voter choices, continuity in office. Therefore, the Orange County Board of Education hereby resolves as follows. Number 1, at the December 8, 2021 public hearing, the board will consider public comment in advance of consideration of maps number 4 and number 5. And number 2, the board will approve a trustee area redistricting plan at the December 8, 2021 public hearing. And number 3, the board will submit a board-approved trustee redistricting plan to the Orange County Registrar of Voters as soon as practicable in advance of the December 15, 2021 adjustment process deadline to assist the registrar in performing its function under such truncated and compressed timelines. And number 4, as was done in 2001 and 2011, on December 10, 2021, the board will present its approved plan to the County Committee on School District Organization exclusively pursuant to Education Code Section 1002B which states in relevant part, following each decennial federal census, using population figures validated by the Population Research Institute of the Department of Finance as a basis, the county committee shall adjust the boundaries of any or all trustee areas of the County Board of Education as necessary to meet the population criteria set forth in subdivision A. Number 5, the board has not previously made any request, and the board makes no request to the county committee under Education Code Section 1002A to change the boundaries of any trustee area of the county, to increase or decrease the number of members of the County Board of Education, or to otherwise take any action under Education Code Section 1002A.
Thank you
Does
very much.
anybody have any oxygen?
Yeah.
This may be, yeah, is that yours? Oh. Sorry.
Okay. Going to move on to public comment?
Wait, do we have any general public comments?
Only if they state so
Okay,
on there.
so to the public, we have, it looks like 11 public comments on agenda item number 4. And when we get there, we will hear from you. So we will move on, staff recommendations.
Okay.
I'll make the motion for item number 11, assuming 1.
I'll go ahead and second it.
I have no discussion, no questions.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? No. Okay. Then we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, passes 4-0.
I make the motion for number 2, the approval of the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant for College and Career Prep Academy.
Second. Right, any discussion?
I have none.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 4-0. Okay, we now move on to number 3, a redistricting update from Douglas Johnson and Greg Rowland. And I think we're going to have Justin Levitt in place of Doug Johnson. Thank you for being here.
My understanding was that Dr. Johnson prepared a video that would be played concerning the demographic information concerning maps number 4 and number 5. And it should be noted that Dr. Johnson created this video late in the evening after another public hearing, so we had to listen to it.
Okay.
Good evening. Once again, I'm Douglas Johnson from National Demographics Corporation, and it's a pleasure to be with you once again, unfortunately virtually, to discuss your redistricting options for the 2021 redistricting of the board. As a brief reminder, you can see on the screen the slide you've seen before, which on the left lays out the federal laws, which are that each district must have, or each, in your case, each trustee area, must have an equal population. Each trustee area must comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, and there must be no racial gerrymandering, meaning that race cannot be the predominant factor either in how a line is drawn or in why a map is adopted. Those are the statutory requirements. State law only has a mention repeating the equal population requirement. And so where the decisions and discretion come down are in the traditional redistricting principles that you see listed on the right-hand side. These are, as I've discussed before, so I'll go through them briefly, communities of interest, trying to keep them together, trying to keep trustee areas compact, contiguous, and following visible natural and man-made boundaries so they're easy to understand, respecting the voters' choices, which means not pairing board members so that re-election decisions are up to the voters, not dictated by the lines. You can slightly adjust for anticipated future growth. You can try to minimize the number of voters who are switched from 2022 election voting to 2024 voting. And you can attempt to preserve the core of the existing trustee areas. Again, the ones on the right are principles or goals. The federal laws are your statutory requirements. You have before you 2 maps that the board narrowed the list down to at the last meeting. They are maps 4 and options 4 and 5. Just to repeat what was shown before, and remind you of the demographics and key numbers. In terms of the Voting Rights Act, both maps are close. Option 4 has a 52% Latino trustee area 1, while option 5 has a 51% Latino trustee area 1. In terms of Asian American population, option 4 has a 33% area 2, and option 5 has a 34% area 2. So they're both very close, just 1% off each way. In terms of population balance, option 4 is well within the 10% maximum, but not quite balanced. So it has a deviation of 2,349 people between its largest trustee area and its smallest trustee area. That is just 0.37% of the ideal population, so relatively small, but notably more than option 5's one-person difference from the ideal. So no trustee area is off from the ideal by more than one person, and a percent deviation of 0%. Of course, both of these maps are much closer to balance than, say, option 9 that we looked at last time, which was 13,940 people off, or at over 2% off, and option 10, which was almost at the legal maximum last time of almost 10%. In terms of the maps, looking at communities, you have on screen both option 4 and then I'll show option 5. Both have roughly similar, actually fairly similar layouts. You can see area 1 in pink unites the heavily Latino neighborhoods and communities of Anaheim with the heavily Latino areas of Santa Ana and with Tustin. Both maps essentially have those combinations. Both maps also unite Little Saigon in area 2, and then have a northern area 4, a coastal area 5, and then an inland area 3. Where they differ, in part, the first part is the bridge between the Anaheim and Santa Ana parts of area 1. So option 4 is using the eastern end of Garden Grove, while option 5 leaves Garden Grove intact and is using the portion of the city of Orange that is west of I-5. Also down on the border of areas 3 and 5, you can see option 5 is using Highway 73, which keeps almost all of Irvine together. You can see there is a part of Irvine right where it comes together with Tustin, Santa Ana, and Newport Beach that is orange or golden for area 5 for population balancing. With the rest of Irvine's together, and it follows Highway 73. In contrast, option 4 uses the more distinctive boundary between 3 and 5 of I-405, which is a very clear boundary, obviously. This does result in the division of Irvine essentially very roughly in half, with the portion inland of 405 in area 3 and west of 405 in area 5. That population shift is offset in South County, where you can see Rancho Santa Margarita and the communities around it are all in area 3, which is an inland trustee area, and then area 5 gets essentially all the coastal communities and stops in Rancho Mission Viejo. In contrast, option 5, because it's not picking up as much of Irvine, it then comes up and gets Rancho Santa Margarita and the communities around that to balance out those two areas. Otherwise, they're very close. Villa Park is the north end of area 3 in both maps, western city of Orange, and then the North County is area 4 in both maps. And the heart of Little Saigon with Fountain Valley, Garden Grove, Westminster, Stanton are together with Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, Los Alamitos, Rossmore, and Cypress in area 2 in both maps. And it is worth noting, we heard a lot from residents about Cypress wanting to stay with Rossmore and Los Alamitos, and that is true in both of these maps. So in the big picture, they're very similar. You can see we maintain a Latino majority area 1 and a very solidly community and neighborhood based area 1. We have a large Asian American percentage and all of the Little Saigon and surrounding community united in area 2. And then a community regional focus in areas 3, 4, and 5. The last difference is probably Tustin. Small difference where option 5 keeps Tustin all together in area 1, whereas option 4 has most of Tustin together in area 1, but the north extension of the city is moved to area 3. Those are the differences. I wish you good luck in your discussion and deliberations this evening and look forward to hearing about your choice. Thank you very much.
And with that, we bring you Justin Levitt of National Demographics Corporation to answer any board questions.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here as the replacement for Doug Johnson tonight. And as an Orange County resident myself, I'm following the process as you've been going through it. So I'm happy to address any questions you have tonight, but my role is just to kind of help you get through this and answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so no comments. We'll just go directly into questions.
Just a short introduction.
Okay, great. Okay. I'll start to my right.
I'd like to hear the public comments first. Anybody okay with that?
Are we, so we're moving on to 4? Are we done with 3, Madam President?
Well, I'd just like to ask one question if I could.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so, I'm learning about all this redistricting business, and from what I gather, and I'd like your confirmation, it's important that we follow the law in terms of equal population, Federal Voting Rights Act, and no racial gerrymandering. So the goal would be to have the least amount of deviation possible.
That is correct. In fact, the deviation is actually the one criteria mentioned in state law.
Okay.
Federal courts have also included voting rights and other issues, but state law actually only speaks to population difference.
Okay.
Oh,
you.
interesting. Okay, right.
So there was, in, I believe, the November meeting, Mr. Johnson came at the very end of the meeting. He was out, probably Malibu in Los Angeles County, one of those cities, dealing with a meeting at that time that he had to attend, and he was kind enough to join us virtually at the very end. And at that moment in the discussion, we were talking about the public providing maps. And there was a lot of discussion amongst the board members here that they would be able to provide maps along with, I believe it was November 12th deadline. I think that was the date. And we were told by Douglas, and I just wanted you to verify this, that in the cities, you were able to take that data and create the information, and you had actually, there was actually applications that you can download. Earlier, good trustee Gomez was sharing that in her city they had crayons that were actually on these maps. But in the county, you were unable to take these applications, take this data, take the map, and give us all of the metrics that you have given us for maps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I'm not sure exactly what the question is. I know that many cities, for example, have spent a lot of additional resources on mapping tools, some of which have been available early on. We're in a very compressed time frame to do this, and that's not necessarily the fault of the school district, or the Board of Ed. We did not receive the census data itself until the end of September. And that has really compressed the time frame for doing this, not only for the Board of Ed, but also for every county around the state. Some counties, like Orange County, put out tools that literally were using 2010 census data that are useless because the 2020 numbers don't match those 2010 numbers. And so that, for example, and also just because of the sheer volume of jurisdictions that are looking for tools, a lot of the companies and vendors that are selling them are certainly prioritizing the people who pay. And counties like Los Angeles County, I believe, spent somewhere close to $2 million to get themselves priority access to certain tools. Though that's the kind of resources that for most, I don't want to speak for the Board of Ed, but for school districts, that puts them well out of their price range. And so I would say that all of the submissions from the public certainly contribute to our knowledge, understanding, our look at communities of interest as reflected in the maps, but they may not be population balanced. Even within that 10%, not to mention the zero population balance virtually required by state law. But within that 10% deviation even, especially if you're using old data such as the county-wide population kits that the County of Orange put out.
But as far as the data for some of these maps that we received from the public, we didn't get anything back from NDC. And I believe Doug was sharing with us that he just didn't have the tools to do that. Could you comment on
that? I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. I know that we did receive community input that went into the maps, but unfortunately, creating and analyzing each map for demographic for the full demographic spreadsheet was not feasible given the time constraints that we're under.
Okay. That answered my question.
Any other board member questions before we go to public comment?
Well, yeah, I guess we're going to do that now. So, given the compressed time frame that we had, you're saying that we were not able to provide the same data on all the maps that we did on the first few maps that were submitted. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I believe so. Some of the maps I believe that we could very easily tell were not population balanced. Certainly contribute to our communities of interest understanding, but we don't want to spend a lot of time focusing, especially with our compressed time frame, on maps that are not able to be adopted for legal reasons.
Okay. So one of the things that, we talk about the equal population, but that equal population has to be within 10%, not within necessarily with one person, which some of the maps displayed.
So this is a really interesting case because 10% is the Supreme Court's presumptively constitutional standard, but boards of education have a unique provision in state law that says as close to equal as possible, which is the kind of language that the courts have used to describe congressional districts, which must be exactly one person deviation at most. So Board of Ed, it's almost an unanswered question, but to protect the district legally, we're recommending that you get as close to perfect equality as possible.
Okay. So as far as the communities of interest, can you tell me how many school districts were split in these maps?
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
Okay. Can you tell me how many cities were split in these maps?
I can tell you certain. Yeah, I can get that information quickly.
Okay.
And most of the maps split the same cities, I should mention. So, for example, Anaheim is split in both maps. Santa Ana is split in both maps. Tustin is not split in map 5, but is split in map 4. Garden Grove is split in map 4, but not in map 5. Huntington Beach and Orange are both split in both maps. Irvine is split in both maps. And I believe those are the only cities that are split.
Okay. Okay, so there's, there should be no racial gerrymandering, correct? But in Dr. Johnson's presentation, that's how he started off describing each map about the population of, the Hispanic population or the Asian population. So that makes me a little uncomfortable when it's described
Well,
by that.
and what I want to emphasize is when we talk about racial gerrymandering that way, it means both not packing a district that's only justifiable because of race or ethnicity, but also not intentionally dividing a community. For example, in the supervisorial districts used for the last 10 years, Anaheim and Santa Ana were in two separate supervisorial districts. And thus the county did not have a majority Latino supervisorial district for the last 10 years. That is a potential issue of cracking. And so by mentioning that, we're trying to emphasize that we are keeping the core Latino centers, the corridor between Anaheim and Santa Ana in the same district in both of these maps.
So when we, in looking at both maps 4 and 5, one of the criteria was talking about them being compact, and District 1 is not compact. How was that arrived at?
Well, again, there was we wanted to ensure for our understanding of the Voting Rights Act that we don't divide Anaheim and Santa Ana, that we keep those two cities, the cores of those two cities together. Because in addition to race, and it's not just about race, but if you look at our demographics, that district is different by income. It's different by the mix of renters and owners. It's different by a lot of the demographic variables. But those two communities are fairly similar to each other. And so by uniting or linking those two communities, the way that the assembly districts, the Senate districts, and the congressional districts do, it's really bringing those two communities together into one district representation.
All right, I don't have any other questions at this time. I may after the public comment.
Thank you for those answers. Appreciate your preparation and providing us the answers. Any other questions before we go to public comment? Or Greg, go ahead, take over.
We're going to open the public hearing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Board members, staff, and members of the public, please allow me to address you in advance of the third and final public hearing. I will simply restate the process so as to not completely repeat the painful verbatim resolution that we have just been read into the record and will be posted on the board's website. The board began this process in May with a presentation on the 2021 census. On June 2nd, the board approved a contract with National Demographics Corporation. On June 16, the board publicly selected a redistricting subcommittee. At the August regular meeting and again at the October regular meeting, the board held public presentations about the status of the board's redistricting efforts, and on both occasions, the board and public were informed of delays in the release of the final census data validated by the Demographic Research Unit of the Department of Finance until late September 2021 due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the operations of the United States Census Bureau. They were also informed of necessary California mandated adjustments to the federal data, reallocating incarcerated individuals to their last residential address. And 3, that process had to be completed by December 15. At the November 3 regular board meeting, Dr. Johnson made a video presentation setting forth legal standards and demographics. He presented 3 maps for public consideration. The board heard public comment, and the board welcomed maps from the public and set a November 12, 2021 timeline. On or before November 12, 2021, the board received 5 additional maps from the public, and NDC created a 4th map in response to public comment concerning the trustee area, where trustee area Cypress may reside. All maps were promptly posted on the Board Redistricting 2020 website with the assistance of department staff. On December 1, at the regular board meeting, the board held its 2nd public hearing. At the December 1 hearing, Dr. Johnson again made a video presentation setting forth demographics and analyzing each of the 10 maps posted on the board website. Excuse me. The board again received public comment. The board commented and provided testimony on each of the 10 maps, and then the board publicly selected 2 maps that may be considered at the December 8, 2021 special board meeting. This evening, during the prior agenda item, you've received a further presentation from both Dr. Johnson and Justin Levitt concerning 2 maps that were brought forth for public consideration. The board will now receive public comment, and the board will have an opportunity to comment on the proposed boundary readjustment. And during the next item, agenda item number 5, The board will vote on an approval of 2021 trustee districts. Assuming arguendo, the board approves a redistricting plan and will be presented to the county committee on school district organization to approve new trustee area boundaries as complying with the equal population criteria pursuant to Education Code Section 1002B. And with that, we open the public hearing.
Thank you.
First up will be Libby Frohlichman, and I'll be giving the second name. You will be on deck if the second individual. That will be Harami, if you will stand behind the podium up here, so we can make this process as quick and efficacious as we can. Libby, thank you for being here.
Of course. I'm here because I'm concerned about the redistricting process that is going to conclude this week. I was here last week and was extremely disappointed in the manner that 50 emails with unverified content were given much greater weight than the 6 people who sat through the meeting and gave public comment in person. Having not seen the emails, I have no idea how many were received from the same person, how many truly unique individual emails were actually received, or if the arguments presented in the emails were even relevant to redistricting rules. I must also state that I was disappointed in the seeming lack of understanding of electoral maps. One trustee in particular seemed to be seeing the maps for the first time and was very concerned about the physical size of her district. Since the laws guiding redistricting require that the districts have roughly the same population, it doesn't matter what the actual physical size of the district is. All but one of the maps considered were within the allowable variation in population. I'm further disappointed that a board member was given the opportunity to submit a revision to his map before final consideration. But the member of the public that submitted map 9 and was present at last week's meeting was not afforded the same opportunity. If the board is intent on keeping Cypress with Los Alamitos, it would only have been fair to give the map 9 author a chance to attempt to redraw his submission with that modification. This process is supposed to be equitable, and treating different map drawers differently is certainly not equitable. With that in mind, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, I urge this board majority to vote to bring back map 9 and consider the amended map that has been submitted by Billy Joe Wright as map 9 revised. Map 9 revised is the only map that was drawn with community input and keeps Huntington Beach united in one district. Just as you have been concerned about keeping Los Alamitos united with Cypress, you should have the same concern for keeping Huntington Beach fully united with Fountain Valley, since we share school districts. Please adopt map 9A, and as you make your final decisions, I implore you to remember Proverbs 11:1. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but just weight is his delight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Harumi. After Harumi would be Judge Riddle.
Hi, my name is Harumi, and I live in the city of Cypress. And I'm here in support of proposal number 5. The map is very simple and easy to understand who the trustees in each district is. It keeps current trustees in these areas they were elected to serve. Some of the maps take Cypress out of district number 2, where we are now. That's where trustee Marie Barkey is from. I voted for her, and I want her to continue to be my trustee. It also, the map number 5 also keeps contiguous areas together, not those weird maps that goes everywhere. And there is 0 deviation. Each district is equal, has the same number of people, and this is close to equality. It also keeps community of interest together. I urge you to, I totally am with map number 5. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Judge Riddle will be Dory Kepton.
Good evening, I'm Lynn Riddle. I believe the board's December 1st decision eliminating map 9 from further consideration was fundamentally unfair. It was fatally flawed. And for those reasons, I urge you to bring back for reconsideration tonight map 9 along with maps 4 and 5. Whether you intended them or not, these are the unfairnesses that I witnessed. First, the board had access to a map 9 representation one done using 2021 caliper software with population data reformulated by Maptitude software. None of that information was presented to the public in a timely manner. The public has therefore been prejudiced. Without that knowledge, we could not participate fairly. Second, it was during discussion that you came to an evolving set of criteria for map elimination that had never been shared with the public before, and therefore we had no opportunity to fairly comment or even to ask for an opportunity to amend our preferred maps to conform to your previously unannounced criteria. And third, when you decided to advance Trustee Williams' map 4, you did so giving Trustee Williams the right to amend his maps to accommodate new considerations, but map 9 advocates were not accorded an opportunity to amend their preferred map in light of any new circumstances or criteria. In my view, that was fatally unjust. In addition, eliminating map 9, you focused on two primary reasons. First, you said that you'd received more than 50 emails urging you to keep Cypress in District 2 rather than it being shifted into District 4. When asked about the persuasiveness of the 6 speakers favoring map 9, you cited the 50 emails as being overwhelmingly compelling. I've carefully reviewed copies of 51 Cypress-related redistricting emails, and when I called out all of the exact duplicates, that actual number came to less than 30. And when you reduced it to one email per sender, that was reduced to 17. And next I looked at content. The reasons the Cypress writers advanced most entirely had no relevance to the electoral redistricting principles. About half were concerned that their children's school district or even the place they actually attend would change, and that's not so. Finally, during your discussions, it was suggested that map 9 would prejudice Asian American communities, something Trustee Williams said was unacceptable. Yet, in none of the 51 emails, Cypress mentioning emails that I reviewed, no one made any reference to any prejudice to the Asian American or any other minority community.
Thank you, Judge Riddell.
Thank you.
Your time is
Your
up.
decision to eliminate map 9 was unfair, and I urge you
Your
to
time is up,
reconsider it
Judge Riddell.
tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up will be Dory Kepton, and after Dory Kepton will be Billy Joe Wright.
Good evening, Board of Education, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with you this evening. My name is Dory Krepton, and I'm a resident of Huntington Beach, and I'm here to speak on the redistricting. Specifically, to speak to the importance and value of adopting MAP 9A with its revisions. MAP 9A follows the federal guidelines for redistricting as well as meets those guidelines. It formulates on 4 very strong principles. 1, it reflects the boundaries of all communities. 2, it respects a broad base of voters, allowing for meaningful presentation and balance. 3, it reflects boundaries of actual neighborhoods rather than cutting an arbitrary line that would run through somebody's home. And lastly, and more importantly, it follows the principle of one person, one vote, in which each district has a substantially similar number of people sharing common social and economic interests. MAP 9 is well-reasoned in its rationale. It was created by a group of thoughtful, diverse, and experienced community members. The very principles on which our democracy was founded. It is a fair map. It is the best map, and giving you the background and the relative information, the right decision would be vote for number 9A. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up is Mr. Wright, and then we have on deck Miguel Curiel.
Good evening, board, audience. My name is Billy Joe Wright. I'm a resident of Anaheim, and I'm a high school government econ teacher. I loved seeing some of the kids here tonight. Redistricting is hard. I've taught AP government for 13 years, I encourage the audience and kids to check out redistricting.org or redistrictinggame.org. The kids use it to try and figure it out, and just when they think they have it, it's wrong. You've got something wrong with the population. You're missing some group or something. So this was my first time ever submitting a map, and I was excited to show my kids this step. I was really disappointed after last meeting. When I sat here during the meeting, and let me go back a minute. When I submitted it, I thought, you know what? I don't know if it's going to work. I didn't even have the program to be able to make the map. So I thought we'd submit it, let my kids see the process, and instead, they got shut down and they got to hear a board basically just ignore public input when trying to give a map. And I think you're all better than that. I don't know you personally, but I hear your passion. Ms. Barkey, I heard you even last time, even if you guys didn't pass it, what's wrong with just putting it forward for discussion? Instead, my kids got to see someone step up, try to work with community members, and it's hard and busy being a teacher right now. But to turn around and feel so dismissed, I don't even want to tell you what some of the comments were from my students. I need people to know in Cypress, I didn't have all the information, and so I took what I could get and did my best. The idea of you keep bringing up the Asian population as if it was something done on purpose, again, go play the redistricting game and understand how hard it is. So all I asked for was once I heard that Mr. Williams, you submitted your own map, and then you were going to give yourself a chance to resubmit, and then your colleagues are going to go along with it, but for some reason you felt a member of the public didn't deserve the same. I just don't understand it. I submitted the map hoping that it would be considered. I then went back, and I actually, because I do my homework, I took all the emails that we were able to get, and there was so much in there that some people put in. One of the things was they're disappointed with their leadership in that area. That was one person. Another person thought that if they didn't go with that map, that they were going to be put in LA County. And I don't fault them for any of this. They really cared about their going to festivals with the same people, having their kids remain friends. All I ask
Please
is that
finish
you
up,
please
Mr. Wright.
consider that
Thank
along
you
with
very
everything
much.
else.
Next
Thank you.
up will be Miguel Curio, then Mr. Eddie Kim.
Hello, my name is Miguel Curio. I just wanted to say that I am here in support of map 9 to be reconsidered for a vote. It is one of the only maps that was made up of community input, community support. It was made up of the Asian communities as well as the Latin communities. And those are communities that have many similarities and for a very long time have stayed together. Map 9 would ensure that these districts would make sure that these people are people who are of the same communities, have the same values, and it would also make sure that we don't go down the gerrymandering route. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Eddie Kim is up next. After Mr. Kim will be Lori Kaler.
Before I start, I just wanted to say to Teacher Wright, doing your best doesn't always mean it is the best. So no one's doubting that you did your best, but it doesn't mean it is. So hello, board members. Thank you for considering our requests and concerns. Firstly, I apologize, and I'm here to apologize that I'm here to ask medical questions instead of asking my family physician. But as a dad of 3 girls, I need some answers. There's always been a basic public safety requirement, which I totally understand and appreciate. And I understand that legally most people have the right to even decline any medical care or treatment and not be discriminated against. I also know that public schools require children's vaccines in order to be enrolled. What I did not see coming was schools trying to mandate a medical treatment that hasn't undergone safety trials and only given a temporary use authorization. I also not see coming was places, restaurants, and public venues following suit. And also, I did not see coming were vaccine passports, AKA papers. Sounds like Nazi Germany. And I thought we agreed after World War II that that type of behavior was a crime against humanity. We can agree most parents want what's best for their children, but I did not see coming was that we parents are losing our power to make decisions for our kids. And society, media, doctors, educators want to make those choices for us. Since I love my kids, and since the government thought it prudent for education boards to make medical decisions for our children, can I ask you a few questions? If you vote to mandate the vaccine and there are any injuries to any child, who is liable? I just want this on the board. I mean, on public record. Is OC Board of Education, the administration at school, maybe the OC Health Department, vaccine companies, or is the government? As far as I know, vaccine makers and the government is shielded from liability top to bottom, and they seem to be pushing it the hardest. How can you mandate people to take an experimental injection without any liability? If you vote to mandate the vaccine in our schools and my child is injured, can I personally sue you, Ms. Becky Gomez? Or maybe you, President Mary Barkey? Or how about you, Vice President Williams? Or maybe even you, Ms. Dr. Lisa Sparks? So maybe anyone that has vaccine injuries or death can sue the people who vote to mandate them. Please help me understand why everyone wants to push this temporary use authorized vaccine and no one wants to take liability. This really makes me question the validity and safety of any item where no one wants to take responsibility for the potential damages that might occur, especially to my girls. I implore you all, unless you can personally stand behind your decision and take responsibility, please do not experiment with our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
By the way,
time is up. Appreciate
high
it.
five on map 5.
Thank you.
Lori Kaler, and after Lori will be Mr. George Lee.
As I said, parents care about their kids. After more careful consideration of the map options, I am looking now at map 5 for the following reasons. It's simple, easy to read, it's contiguous, it makes sense. It's the trustee areas are equal numbers of constituents. It keeps the communities of interest together, and it keeps the current trustees in the areas they were elected to serve. I'm from Orange. I elected Dr. Williams, and I believe that he puts kids' best interests at heart, and he also looks at the parents and their wishes. And I would like to keep this board that cares about families and about kids in place. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee, after Mr. Lee is Linda Cohn, and then lastly will be Linda Cameron. Mr. Lee, you're up, sir. Mr. Lee? George Lee, are you Mr. Lee? That would be number 9?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Good evening. Yeah, I'm here to support the map number 5. My name is George, and I'm a resident of Lake Forest. I support map number 5 for the following reason. The first is that the map is straightforward, it's simple, it's contiguous, it makes sense. It's not like snake around and make a weird pattern. The second one is that each trustee area has the same equal numbers, and there's the 0 deviation, which is important when we do the map. The fourth reason is that keep the community of interest together. That's very important because we want the representation of similar, or the community shares the same values and same culture. The last reason is that it keeps the current trustee in the area they were elected to serve. So I think this map will provide stability to the current board, and also it protects the Voting Rights Act. So please vote for map number 5. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I also support option 5, map 5, for one main reason, and that is that it keeps the current trustees in the areas that they were elected to serve. And this, for me, is the most important. I do not believe map 9 does this. In terms of this board, I've already spoken to why I think it's so important to keep these trustees in office. They were all duly elected. We have just heard a lengthy discussion of perhaps the number one issue facing parents, which is the vaccine mandate. I commend this board in public for its strong stance against this vaccine mandate. They have taken a very courageous stance. I do not want to lose this board, and I don't want to lose particularly a courageous group of people who will stand up to the kind of government that we're experiencing right now. I tell my friends, you either confront tyranny or you bow down to it. This board has chosen to confront tyranny. Once again, I commend you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am just going to ditto what was just said. I don't want to waste any time. I like map number 5. It's simple and it makes sense. So please, number 5.
Thank you.
And Madam President, that concludes public comments, item number 4. Moving on to 5.
Given all the comments that we've heard, and particularly from the demographer as well, I'd like to put forth for final board approval map number 5 for consideration.
I'll second that.
All
Have
right.
you closed the public hearing?
No.
Public hearing is still open,
Okay.
so that's the next agenda item.
Okay.
Shall we close the public hearing? Do I have a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing.
A second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion before we close?
I would just like one more chance for the public if anybody has last comments.
Okay. I don't hear any, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 4-0, we close the hearing. And you, now we
Okay.
have,
Agenda item number 6.
okay, we move to
You
agenda.
mean 5?
No, 5.
5. Okay, I'd like to reiterate what I had just said, which is, given all the comments that we've heard tonight, and particularly from the demographer about the California state laws and the federal laws in terms of no deviation, I'd like to put forth map number 5 for final board approval.
No, second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
As I said at the last board meeting, I think we are doing a huge disservice to the public who did not have enough time to look at these maps, and we did not get all the data. As I expressed my concern last time about the maps, this has been a very rushed process, and I don't think we allowed enough time for the public to see all the maps and to see all the data. So I'm concerned that we did not push forward map 9 as I requested at the last meeting. It's very disappointing to me. It's very disappointing to members of the public. This board has said when people show up to meetings, it's important, and I think these people did that expressed support for map 9, and yet we're dismissing their comments. So I will not be supporting map 5.
Very good. Any other board member comments?
And I would like to just make a few comments here. No one is dismissing anybody, Becky. We have in record all of the maps that we went through last week. No one is dismissing, no one is disparaging anyone. We heard everybody. We gave our reasons. That is well documented in the minutes and in the agenda from last week. I don't think it was a rush process that we caused. This was a process that was constrained by time and COVID. I think the committee that we formed went through this appropriately and thoughtfully, deliberately. We sought legal counsel. We obtained the best demography group around. You know, maps are controversial and difficult because not everybody's going to agree. And there's a lot of information that was shared tonight that is just blatantly false. Map number 4A was requested by my colleagues here. It never went forward because there was no time to do it. So I don't think that this was prejudice. I don't think this was unfair. Was it ideal and perfect? Not because we didn't want it. It's just because of the circumstances. That's my comment.
All right, any other comments? Any other comments? Okay, I will go ahead and call the vote. We have a motion and a second for map 5, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Oppose.
Okay, so it passes 3-1.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting, Madam President.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
You don't have to.
Oh.
You just adjourn it.
We are adjourned.